So, over the past 6 months, I completely transformed my life simply doing 7 things every single day that anybody can do and that will transform the way you're living your life right now. So, I wanted to share those with you. Let's dive right in. Tip number 1, congruency between speech and action. And what I mean is, over the past couple of years, I noticed that I was always the guy that said I wanted to do something, that I was going to do something, but I never did. Only when I was referring to myself. I was great with my friends, family, work. I would always do as much as I could and even over-deliver to them. But when it came down to myself, I was not the same. I wasn't congruent. I would tell myself that I was going to wake up at a certain time, and I didn't. I told myself that I was going to exercise this many hours, and I didn't. I told myself that I was going to stop eating the donuts, and I didn't. So I had to deal with the reality that I was not a good person for me. I did not follow through with my own word. And that created this place subconsciously in my mind where my brain knew that I wasn't the type of person that followed through. Which means my brain didn't trust me. So any attempt that I had to make progress in my life was sabotaged because the moment that I did something different and I followed through, my brain would automatically revert back to what he thought I was doing. I was doing something completely wrong, right? So in order for you to start making progress, you first have to face the fact that you might not be the type of person that is following through right now with the promises that you're making to yourself. With that came the second realization that I had, and I got this one from this book right here. Highly recommend, The One Thing. And it basically showed me that in order for me to make progress in any area of my life, there is always something that will move the needle forward more than the other things, right? I needed to narrow down what was that one thing that I could do on a daily basis that would drastically cause an impact on my life. And for me specifically, that was 75 Hard, which is a program that there's no deviation. You just do simple tasks every single day, and it creates that mental toughness, and essentially it gets your relationship back with yourself back on track so you can make progress. It creates mental toughness to the point where you will trust yourself, you will create confidence again, you will be the type of person that will follow through every single time. That's what that program was designed to do, and that was my one thing. Once I did that, the third step that I took was to not allow my mouth to overload my back anymore. I was the type of person that was always saying yes to everything before I even put some thought into it, which meant I didn't value my time as much as I should. This is something that I learned from Jim Rohn, and he says it's much easier to tell someone that you might not be able to do what they want, but if you change your mind, you let them know, than to accept and say yes to everything and then spend hours or days trying to get out of a commitment that you should have said no in the first place. So once I adopted that mentality of saying no first, and if things change, I would let people know, I noticed a lot more flexibility with my own schedule to do the things that I really needed to do to change my life. So I would advise you to maybe try that approach and see what happens. And people might be way more understanding than you think that they are, right? After I've done that, I was introduced to the fourth step that I took, which is the ideal calendar. Up until that moment, I did have a calendar, especially being in sales, that I followed every single day, but it wasn't what is called the ideal calendar now. That's what I have. Essentially, a buddy of mine introduced me to this concept, which is he challenged me to design the perfect day and whatever that looked for myself. That's what I did. I spent some time figuring out if I had to do You know, if I had the perfect schedule, what would that look like for me? What would I do with that day if I could do anything I wanted? And that is what the ideal calendar is. So I'll put like a screenshot here so you guys can have an idea. And I'm happy to make another video about the ideal calendar for you to maybe replicate that for yourself. But essentially it comes down to pinpointing every single thing that you want to do and accomplish throughout your day and put it in your calendar. And don't get me wrong, some people think that this is like, you know, over structuring your day, but it's actually the opposite. It's getting clarity about what you need to do to get what you want, right? So for me, for example, I wake up at 4 a.m. By 4:45, I go to CrossFit. Then I exercise until 6:30. Then 7 a.m., I grab a coffee, work until noon, whatever that might be. Sometimes is creating this video, sometimes is sales, sometimes is, you know, other things. Then I have lunch, which is from this time to this time. And everything is outlined there according to what I want to do. Then you have to compare both calendars, what you have now in your ideal calendar, and see how you can actually eliminate things that are crossing over. How can you make this your ideal situation? And the ideal calendar will evolve over time, right? So you have color coded, you know exactly what it's what. You know, exercises and personal growth is one thing, work is a different color, you know, other commitments, different color. That way you already know. You don't have to second guess yourself. All right. Once I got that in place, I noticed that I was way more productive because now I was following something that I really wanted to do. And I was able to get my schedule to a point where all the distractions were eliminated. All the nuances of things that I hated were taken out. All the yeses that I said yes to in the past now were no longer in my calendar, right? And that led me to tip number 5, which I got from this book right here, from Felix Dennis, How to Get Rich. Highly recommend. This was a great read. And in one page, he says, think big and act small. And that was, I always understood this coming from sales, but I did not implement it until he presented to me the way he did, which is everybody have the missions and the goals and the visions that you want for your life. Let's say it's to become a millionaire, right? Which is very vague. It's thinking big, but then when it comes to acting, if I say I'm gonna act to become a millionaire, it's pretty confusing. So what he recommends is to act very small. Oh, what's the first step that I could take to become a millionaire, right? Is to reverse engineer everything back to see what's the minimal or the smallest step I can take today that will move that needle forward. So it might be figuring out if you want to start a business or if you want to start investing or what path you're going to follow. Then from there, you figure out inside that little niche, what is the path? You know, so let's say if you figured out that you want to be in sales, what kind of sales? Car sales, high ticket sales, you know, realtor, what is it going to be? Once you get in there, you just reverse engineer everything to a daily step that you will take to get you where you want it to be, right? That keeps you on track, keeps your focus. You're laser focused now. It's easy to accomplish one simple step every day than to become a millionaire in 5 years. You don't know what to do if you don't have that map outlined for you. It's very difficult that, you know, to find someone that can implement this massive plan without having clear steps of preparation and what to do next. So once I started to, you know, act small, because thinking big wasn't a problem for me. It was more acting small. I then moved to the next thing, which was basically, I noticed that I started talking back to myself, right? Once you start to make the changes, don't think it's going to be, you know, all rainbow and sunshine. Your brain is going to play tricks on you. You know, some days you're not going to want to exercise. You're not going to want to, you know, put in the hours. You're not going to want to hang out with your spouse or your partner. And you're going to notice those things because now you're making the changes and your brain is trying to take you back to where you were before And you have to start talking back to that voice that is trying to, take you back to comfort. So that's what I started doing. I noticed like my brain would say, hey, don't exercise today. You're too tired. You worked a lot. You can always put in the work tomorrow and work extra hard. And I'd be like, no, this is, the voice of comfort talking to me. And that will never allow me to become the person that I want to become. I don't want to be the Thales that, essentially didn't do the things and didn't follow through like I was, 6, 2, 3, 4 years ago. I want to achieve those things, and in order for me to get there, I need to do this right now, even though I don't feel like doing it. And the funny thing is, if you just muscle up a little bit of, power and do it anyways, even if you don't want to do it, after you do it, you just get that rush and that, endorphin, and you feel great. The hardest thing is to just notice the patterns. But as long as you pay attention to your thoughts and to what your brain is trying to do by putting you back where you were, you'll be able to do this in no time, right? And finally, last thing that I did was I had to stop lying to myself. And just being brutally honest, what happened was I realized that because of what society has taught us in general, that you should have this big vision, this big purpose, that you should be helping save the planet or saving the whales or the kids in Africa or whatever it might have been, I bought into that narrative of not looking bad, and I forgot what I really wanted. Therefore, I started things, and midway through what I started, I just didn't feel like doing anything anymore because I was lying to myself about the reason why I was doing them in the first place, right? I didn't want to sound bad. And this was unconscious. I wasn't thinking about this until I realized that the reason why I wanted to get rich was because I wanted to live in a better house, and I wanted to have a mansion, and I wanted to be able to invite all my friends over and, provide them with a great time and so on and so forth. Some people might think that this is cliche, but my point is, I'm not here to tell you what your purpose should be or your mission. I'm just saying that you have to be honest so you can actually develop the drive to keep moving forward once the going gets really hard. If you're lying to yourself with this, big crazy idealisms that we're taught that like, hey, you have to save the planet, and that's not truly what you want, you'll never accomplish anything. You just give up and keep moving and hopping from one thing to the next and one thing to the next, feeling sad for yourself that you can't, get what you want out of life. So for me, being very straightforward was, I want, a big truck. I always loved trucks. I always loved dirt bikes. I want this dirt bike. I want, a big house. I want to help my parents retire and not have to work anymore. I want to be able to never have to worry about money. And then once things started to kind of fall in place, then other reasons started to emerge for me. Now I cared about helping other people or helping more, right? So the more I was able to be in alignment with what I really wanted, the stronger my why became. And my why changed. It changed from being able to pay the bills to getting, larger sums of money, to being able to get more materialistic stuff, to being able to help the people that I love the most, and still changing. It's ever changing. It's never going to stop changing. But I had to stop lying to myself first. So I hope you found this video valuable. If you did, please leave a comment below. Do all that good stuff. Thumbs up, like the video, share it, subscribe. And if you like this video, you might like this video right here where I talk about how I went from making, $39,000 a year to now making that every single month, or sometimes even in days. You might find that interesting. So click here and watch this video next.